So the crime rate is higher than it's been for the last decade or so. Republicans claim it's Joe Biden's fault, but is it? Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. I'm also a lawyer and an academic, and I'm here to help you stand up to the BS the MAGA crowd is spouting. So Republicans are back on the crime bandwagon. They claim that the reason that the crime rate is higher than it should be right now, albeit not as high as it was back in the 80s and 90s, has to do with the Democrats being soft on crime. Well, I came across the other day an interesting little study by the Democratic group Third Way. And what they found is that the states where the murder rate has been going up are, wait for it, Republican states, not Democratic ones. In fact, of the 10 states with the biggest jump in crime, 8 of them were won by Donald Trump, including the top 6, and 8 of them also have Republican governors. And all of them have a strong presence by Republicans in the legislature, controlling one or both of the legislative bodies. These states include such Democratic bastions as the number 1 state for a jump in crime, Mississippi, number 2, Louisiana, number 3, Kentucky, number 4, Alabama, number 5, Missouri, and number 6, South Carolina. Even when you look at it at the basis of cities, the Republicans in many cases are doing worse than Democrats. For example, Jacksonville, a city with a Republican mayor, had 128 more murders in 2020 than San Francisco, a city with a Democratic mayor, and the city which is famously liberal, of course, despite the fact that they're very comparable in population. What's more is that nearby Bakersfield, California, home to House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, has a murder rate double that of San Francisco, despite having a Republican mayor and having voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump. What's more is, on average, the murder rate in the states won by Donald Trump are 40% higher than those in states won by Joe Biden. So what's going on here? I think, frankly, it would be silly to simply point at the Republicans and say, oh, it's really their fault, because that would be playing the same game that Republicans are playing. And this actually obscures the fact that when Republicans talk about being tough on crime, they're not really talking about crime, they're talking about race. If you don't believe me, you can see the questioning that Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson has been going through. The Republicans have been making barely veiled references to race in their attacks upon her as being a supporter of critical race theory. I mean, Nixon as much as admitted that his Southern strategy, which was based on race and housing, were basically just dog whistles to appeal to the white Southerners who were outraged over the civil rights movement. And you can see this sense of white grievance all over the place in the Ketanji Brown Jackson hearings, as senators like Lindsey Graham have to go back over the Brett Kavanaugh nomination, talking about how horrible it was for them, despite the fact that Brett Kavanaugh is now sitting on the U.S. Supreme Court. This is classic white grievance politics, where they end up the winners getting everything that they want and still bitch about it. In fact, I would argue that it makes total sense that the states where we see the biggest jump in murders are also the states that Donald Trump won. And truth be told, it has a tangential relationship to politics. In fact, in this case, I'll refer you to Nobel Prize winner Angus Deaton and his co-author Anne Case. Interestingly, just as an aside, that the man got the Nobel Prize but not the woman. But what the two of them pointed out to, starting in 2015, was a disturbing trend where, especially among white people who are in the working class, who tend to be lower educated, that these groups tend to have an increasing mortality rate. The deaths in particular that these two researchers pointed out were deaths of suicide, drug overdoses, and alcohol-related. And these deaths were what Deaton and Case called deaths of despair, where essentially people who feel that their lives are hopeless and have reached a dead end are either killing themselves or numbing their feelings with drugs and alcohol. And again, although these statistics seem to affect people across America, both men and women without a 4-year degree, they especially spiked among white people who do not have a 4-year degree. And of course, those people tended to vote overwhelmingly for Donald Trump. The sad truth is that while these people felt that Donald Trump spoke to their sense of despair, in reality, from a policy perspective, part of what has created the situation that they're in are the Republican policies that they've supported. The fact that unions have been decimated across America, destroying their ability to get good jobs, and that there was no effort to address the damage that was done to their futures as a result of the various trading deals that Republicans championed, and that funds have been withdrawn from education, making it even more out of reach for these people. Well, these are exactly the dynamics, again, policies that Republicans have championed that have created the despair that they find themselves in. Have Democrats done too little to help them at times? Absolutely. But these are the very people who are hurt when Republicans oppose efforts to assist labor unions, to protect employees in their workplace, or to provide them with income through the dependent child tax credit. This level of despair has resulted in what Atlantic editor Graham Wood referred to as an extended moral holiday. Essentially, when people lose faith in the institutions and in society as a whole, and don't feel that they have anything invested in the system overall, then there's going to be a certain percentage of those people who feel unconstrained by the values that society as a whole have. Those values, of course, are reflected in our laws. This problem is represented in all kinds of statistics. For example, here's one for you that was unexpected. Pedestrian deaths in the United States have spiked over the last couple of years. This is especially surprising given the fact that this period included the COVID shutdowns when really people weren't driving much. Why are these deaths up? Well, people are driving more recklessly. They aren't being as careful. They aren't paying attention. They don't feel the same investment in society as a whole and the need to protect everyone from their own actions. And yes, this kind of disillusionment would certainly lead to an increase in murder rates. And again, given the fact that these same people who are most disillusioned also are most likely to be Trump supporters, it's not terribly surprising that the murder rate has gone up the most in the areas where Trump has done particularly well. So how do we address this problem? Well, I think the answer is clear to that. Develop policies that give these people hope. Support the development of strong labor unions and give people protections from their employers in the workplace. Support income that allows them to rise out of poverty, and healthcare protections that allow them to be healthy. Given the dynamic here, those are the types of things, the kinds of things that Democrats are advocating for in the Build Back Better agenda that will actually be able to return some hope to people and maybe give them a little more sense that they've got an investment in a system and that they shouldn't believe that the solution is just to blow everything up. Well, the truth of the matter is, if we want to deal with a real crime spree, the place you'll find it is among Republicans. Check out this video here to see how Matt Gaetz is a one-person crime spree. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.